Welcome everyone to today's webinar on accelerating climate adaptation, public-private collaboration in insurance systems. This is the final session in the knowledge sharing series of Soteria Climate Resilience Dialogue. We are very happy to have you today for this informative webinar and learning session. My name is Vivian from the Global Infrastructure Basel Foundation, GIB. GIB is a non-profit foundation based in Switzerland. We work on accelerating a mainstream transition to sustainable resilience and regenerative infrastructure around the world and promoting nature-based solutions. So in Soteria, we are in charge of the regional climate resilient dialogues. Before we get started, let me quickly walk you through today's agenda. So we will begin with a brief introduction of the Soteria project and the CRD, as well as introductions to our speakers today. We are very honored to have you, Roland and Alexander. And following that, we have two presentations and Q&A sessions. In the end, we will ask you to complete a short feedback survey, and then we will wrap up the session and also the webinar series for the regional climate resilience dialogues. So Soteria is an EU-funded project which implements and pilots innovative insurance solutions across 8 European regions to strengthen climate change adaptation and resilience. We are a consortium of over 30 partners, and today the webinar is part of the Climate Resilient Dialogues under the Work Package 4, which connects partners across 4 work packages and bring regional stakeholders together for learning and transparent communication and also open collaboration. So you can see here, we have case studies in Germany, in Norway, in Spain, Greece, Bulgaria, and Croatia. So what is the climate resilient dialogues and why we need it? So it's actually a European level initiative led by the European Commission, lasted in 2022 and 2024. Until 2024, which gathered various industrial leaders together to explore potential solutions to bridge the climate protection gap. The stakeholders include insurers, reinsurers, risk managers, public authorities, and regional representatives, as well as consumer association. In July this year, European Commission has published a report to summarize key insights and which collected all the key takeaways from plenary meetings in this initiative. So if you're interested, please feel free to go to the European Commission's website and read this report. So in Soteria, we're building on the European level climate resilience dialogues to run a series of regional dialogues. So we have designed it to be 2 parts. In part 1, we have organized 3 knowledge sharing webinars to align our participants on the fundamental concepts, such as climate protection gap, the latest developments in climate insurance solutions, and policy options. In part 2, that's also the ongoing activities we're having with our regional partners, where we have 6 plenary meetings planned, where we invite our regional stakeholders in the case studies to join our interactive workshops and discussions. And to exchange their experience in climate insurance or the risk-related matters connected to their business or their work, and also share their insights on this topic. So for today's webinar, As I mentioned, we are very honored to have two excellent speakers to join us today to share their experience and knowledge on the integrated disaster risk insurance system and their practical and some practical case study examples. So Roland Nussbaum is the board member of the French Association for Disaster Risk Reduction, contributing to the national and international disaster resilience efforts. So with over 40 years of experience in insurance and risk management, he worked with Mission Nature, Insurance Europe, National Observatory of Natural Risks. It's a French public-private partnership for risk data sharing that is aligned with Sendai framework. And we also have our speaker, Alexander Sushenko, today. And he's the professor from the Kiev National Economics University. He's also the research fellow at the Helmholtz Center for Environmental Research in Germany. So Alexander holds a PhD degree in economics and previously worked with UNDP, and his areas of expertise include sustainable and resilience post-conflict recovery, sustainable finance, blended value creation, and financial risk management. So both speakers today will bring their extensive expertise in the topic of disaster risk management and the public-private insurance systems. So I'm very excited to hear from them. And now let's get started. So Roland, so we will first invite you to do the presentation, but before that, let me quickly so Roland, would you like to try to share your screen first with our audience? Hello, Roland, can you hear me?
I think Roland is not on the list of participants online. Please.
Oh, okay. Maybe he runs into some technical issues. Hello, Roland, can you hear me? Maybe Alexander, can I please invite you to
Yeah,
present
sure.
first? So we will wait a bit for Roland to resolve the technical issue and we come back to him for the second presentation.
Sure. Let's maybe switch to my presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Although we agreed with Roland to use his approach as the common one, but I will try to overcome this problem. Okay. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you for finding your time and joining us for this discussion. Yeah, as it was already introduced and mentioned before, my name is Alexander Sushenko. I'm part of the Soteria project, and we are working on innovative insurance solutions in different case studies or cities, regions across Europe. And my part and part of Roland, we both are focused on let's say analyzing the same components of such solutions, and we decided to pick up the public-private collaboration as an example where we can demonstrate that case studies on different levels in different countries could be analyzed through the same lens and be evaluated in terms of their efficiency and efficacy, so to speak. So let me switch to my outline. So it will be kind of short, but I will try to save more time for Alan once he will be back, because he will be holding like the entire line of both presentations. So first, I will give some impression about what we're doing within Soteria project with our case studies. And
Alexander, can you hear
yeah,
me? I think
yeah, I
Roland
can
is
hear.
back. Yes, I think
Okay,
Roland is
okay.
back, and maybe we can let Roland present as you
Exactly.
suggested.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. It will be the best way forward. guess
Yeah.
Roland will have like the introduction to our approach. Yeah.
Yeah. So Roland, would you like to try to share your screen?
Hello, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes,
Yes.
it's a
Yeah.
pleasure to access ultimately to this nice meeting. And I missed certainly the introduction very much. So let's try another technical um, attempt to share the. Uh, can you see the slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks a lot. So, according to what has been introduced by Vivian, you may identify this contribution as uh, an additional one to those of the Soteria and related activities, but it is one of for someone who has very much followed the track of those EU projects who address these integrated approaches of insurance and prevention. And therefore, my point, which tends to illustrate in practice, in the practice I have experienced during my professional life, this the efficiency, the increasing efficiency of integration between loss compensation itself. Of course, it's at the center for many reasons, and the prevention, which is also, and the risk-based decision making, which seems to be somewhere in between. Of course, it's everywhere, but even more efficient if it's used by the end user, and that's what we shall see. And so I will start from my most of my experience, which is in France, but illustrates as well to a larger scope. Again, I may not perhaps elaborate on the introduction. Who is there? It's an association of stakeholders, which has been founded 25 years ago, and in France, and like in Germany, a similar one, like in Switzerland, like in other EU countries, not all of them, but which illustrates this joint effort to integrated risk management, although it most of the time started from the prevention because it was the effort of engineers and scientists more than other parts of the community, and therefore the continuous trend to integrate even more the mentalities. So the second is the second partner, which is not physically here, although very important to me, is the iDream Society, is called, according to this nice acronym, International Association for Integrated Disaster Risk Management, created also during the early times of this millennium, and which is um, according to the name, bringing together mostly scientists but also practitioners to this issue of making integration work more efficiently in practice at every scale. We shall illustrate. And myself, I shall not say more. According to what I just expressed, during the last year, there was a concrete effort between these two associations to launch an initiative called Network of Networks for Risk-Based Decision Making. And this is explicitly this kind of effort when considering the whole integrated system to push and to get the civil society players of the public-private partnership, if we use this wording, to push and to help end user to understand and use more efficiently the tools for, especially for risk-based decision making. We shall illustrate more in detail. My last introductory slide is to refer to this iDream journal, in which, in fact, it was not it's not in the screenplay. It was not foreseen for this webinar, but Alexander and myself were authors of articles which are dealing with what we are talking about in this media, so showing, and the scientists who are attending may certainly consider this is not totally by accident. So my point will go through these 5, 6 points. Which are as an additional introduction to show how the topic is inside the concerns now and more certainly as well, but very strongly already now. So the top of and we shall see that insurance resilience is a new. It's a new wording for considering the consistency, the efficiency, the durability of integrated disaster risk management. We shall comment a little bit these 3 pillars, which are buildings, what I call here the climate change, climate resilience dialogue, because the pillars are there to work, but they are there for the discussion, and we shall see it in these reports which are on the table. My part on practices is concentrated to France, as already indicated, and as a little bit to the Californian case, which just illustrates the fact that more or less everywhere, considering the level of economies, we are at similar stages, and for all a bunch of natural hazards and even more. And I wish to integrate, before concluding, the issue of let's say economics, costs, management, budget, management of expenses, and management of returns. This is definitely an additional issue which is also more understood than in the past, and that's for the sake of not only the politicians but also the end users. And conclude. So the issue on I wish to introduce this when I was kindly invited. I thought it was an excellent opportunity to share my strong belief in the improvements in the overall thinking made by reports like those 2. And it's interesting as well to see that they are more or less not coordinated at all in the way they have been designed, discussed, etc. But in time they are, and in content definitely they are addressing the same kind of concerns. So the one is expressed, if I translate, is to adapt the French insurance system in front of the climate change changes, let's say, and the second was I have not to elaborate because we know how much the Soteria project is close to this one, and this series of webinars is inspired by the title of the report. What I want just to say, without making an analysis of these very interesting, if not totally, perhaps there might be a debate, we shall not do it, but the thing is that they, as I said, they are at least tackling the same major concern without using the same tools, the same methods, the same. So that's quite interesting. The way of approaching the integration between the building blocks on which we are going to talk further is different. One remarkable thing I wish to put forward from my previous experience at EU and national level is that the EU report is not anymore making a kind of beauty contest between the national systems. It's bringing together the representatives of the many concerns, meaning the ecosystem of this climate insurance and risk management, more insurance and risk management definitely was represented and participating, and there was no issue, kind of this the preliminary decision not to get into sterile debates on the respective merits of the existing insurance systems. I think it's quite encouraging. So if we go further, what I display here seems to be very, very obvious. We are in front of a three-pillar system which makes the whole thing work. And what I want just to insist on is the peculiarities or the main building blocks of each element, and especially the links between these elements, the links between the blocks, which are made by specific functionalities, which appear to be contributing to a large extent to recent, I would say, better functioning, although we know, of course, that NatCat system is always confronted to many volatilities and that we face, and these extreme events, of course, create major concerns in the opinion and politics, and create also perhaps the leveraging effects for changes. So the French, as an example, is nevertheless, and thanks for inviting me to that extent. I don't know why exactly, and I have not the intention to make a promotion of the French system, as I mentioned before, that it's not the issue of one system being better than the other. It's an issue of integration of all the components. So we find here indeed a very high penetration level, and this is of course a target in many countries to achieve a better penetration of the economic resilience of end users. And in fact, these end users in this case are both individuals, which is the more social part of the approach, but there is also the economic part of the approach, which is to have the highest possible penetration towards the commercial lines. Again, I shall not, I have not, it's not necessary to elaborate. I think then we go to the second pillar, which is, which has been very early integrated, not only in principle, as the system was created 40 years ago, the system for insurance, because there were already, and this is probably the kind of genetic interesting feature that, and now we of course we know that this is obvious for any advice at country level for design of a system to integrate this prevention, but this was done, and it was not functioning for a while, for a long while. That's also interesting, and it's now much more satisfactory. And the tools, which I shall not describe in, which one is a land use planning tool at municipality level, PPR, and the other is a kind of project planning tool, which is, and very close, in fact, to the Californian approach I shall mention later on. So the PAPI is something which made extraordinary, and we can see again, even with these two elements, the fact that each one has a link to the insurance part. I shall express it a little bit further immediately. And that's making the topic I try to elaborate on, and the additional very original feature is this the fact that this funding most of the funding policy is supported by a levy on insurance premium, which is not definitely the debates at European level would have been tough if the subject was approached like that, probably, because it's, of course, putting a levy on insurance premium is not a popular consideration, but it's for sure it makes its way, and it is now very, very efficient at all level, at the level of those who are operating the municipalities and organizations in charge of land use planning and especially of risk reduction projects at risk basing level. And last but not least, the construction codes are there, of course, and the overall subsystem about construction codes and assessment of capacities of building resilience is something which is now considered to be the major target for further improvement. And now the risk-based decision-making is something which might initially have been integrated into the two first, because of course an insurer is a risk-based decision-making businessman. He makes the rates for these things. This is his tool. But the important and new element is to provide to the end user such tools, be it early warning tools, and this is a huge area, be it, and again, it's not only state driven, although it's mainly state driven, of course. And the second major area which we, with colleagues, and I am glad to see one of my previous colleagues attending, who has been in charge of that for us for a while, the exposure and loss record at asset level for the buyers and renters, because it's the way it has been introduced, but also for the insurance customer. These are major elements which are now described all the time and put in practice when we see, and that's why the reason of our webinar early this year, when we see that 8 million people in France use this kind of tool, and that now insurance companies have their own app in addition to the public one. And the last, perhaps not the last, but the most promising at this point in time is this, what I call here, housing resilience survey. Okay, and this is of course this is decades that it was in consideration, but now the system again is made able to do it through the contribution of insurance loss adjusters, through those experts of construction business, and so things which were obvious in theory but was not realized in practice. Thanks to better political momentum, perhaps too late, but never too late. It's going to come through. True. And a last feature is the fact that we have these citizens and users and their organization being able to participate at debates, and there are debates on the legal NatCat system improvement, to participative governance committees, and I shall not elaborate on participative governance, which is a United Nations and EU recommendation, more or less put in practice, but which is evident. It's through one of these instances, CMI, Commission Mixte Inondation, that the tools which represent a lot of money, the tools for flood risk management, are agreed. So through a committee made of many representatives. And now to insist and close, we have, as mentioned, this dimension of including insurance. I think it's not the topic today, but it's definitely a serious issue of even public-private partnership. I attended yesterday evening a debate on this in France with executives on insurance companies. This feature of the levy of insurance premium to subsidize the prevention action, so-called Barnier Fund. So it was 200 million, and it's expected to be 400 thanks to the significant increasing of the Nat Cat premium starting in 1 fortnight, and land use planning rules. So it's concerning the 35,000 municipalities, although not all of them have yet achieved the level of implementation, but it's a residual part of the population. And this includes triggers of insurability, the risk prevention programs, as mentioned. They represent about 2 billion euro attributed, and meaning a composite sources of financing. It's state plus local players to build the project financing. And as I mentioned, the early warnings, this exposure report, which is available on the net, at the least, coming from the state, and sometimes improved in terms of precision by the services of insurance companies, and this housing resilience surveys. I wanted to highlight these elements, I would say twice in my presentation, in the fact that we are here illustrating as concretely as possible the public-private partnership dimension, because each of these functionalities are the results of efforts in the design and or in the implementation and practice during the process. So the keywords are here: integration, and again, interaction between players, additional financing, and there are lots of specificities, and the fact that we are end-user oriented, which is a good point for things which come partly or mainly from the legal environment. So to say a little bit more about the California State Hazard Mitigation Plan, which came to our knowledge thanks to a professor who is mentioned at the bottom, the Cal Polytech, who was a member of a PhD jury of somebody of our team, who made this presentation to us. It's illustrating really the fact that we are in a process which is upgraded every 4 years, addressing all hazards, involving as many stakeholders as possible, and providing the positive, the element which makes this work is, of course, that given a lot of requirements at the various levels of instructions, there is action by the federal government to subsidize state government who is supporting or not certain categories of measures. And so this is a way it's a way of integrating, in fact, more more and perhaps exclusively the risk reduction side. So this is similar to what we had in France for a long time, but it's nevertheless as integrated as the pillar schemes, meaning that the California scheme is probably here and somehow always now here, but there is a specific role, of course, of the insurance commissioner to implement the overall scheme, like in the first case I briefly described. So to come to the end, because I don't see the time, but I suppose, yes, it's close to the end. I wanted to raise the very important issue of getting aware of the costs at every governance level, so being the end user, and he will know the story, because he will he will ask what does he pay for, who pays for what, as a customer insurance, so premium, even levy in the insurance premium, as a taxpayer, because he will through his tax, through dedicated taxes. We have this called GEMAPI in France, addressing gestion des milieux aquatiques and prévention des inondations. So he will pay several times different things, but he may have to understand how this overall integration of risk management cost works. And there is even the worst part of the story, which is a really sad perception issue, which is the loss of property value, which is in fact when the event has occurred, housing is not anymore saleable. Sellable. It's the worst case, of course, for everyone. And so, if what we described before may, and I am sure it will come at a later stage, and there will be high value services to address these end users in this kind of equation of what to do, how to invest, how much to invest immediately, and how what do I expect? This is the whole story, and of course we talk about things which are kind of mechanical issue, whereas the biologics and more or less the insurance-based solution and the nature-based solution, it might be to integrate this part of the story, so the special, the different level of decisions, and to consider the countries, to explain that as it is displayed in the top right, very few countries so far have done the effort to display to the public the kind of split between the major expenses, the split between the pillars, between the insurance and risk reduction and other parts of the story. And so we of course in this part of the story there is an increase of cost to expect for risk decision making, so this will be the probably topics for the future. So to conclude, I had three little proposals. As we are within a EU project, there is probably still an open area to design, test, and provide risk-based decision-making tools. It's not, but it's and in order to integrate them, so as we, in fact, the philosophy of Soteria and related projects about nature-based solution, implementing and leveraging insurance progress and vice versa is to be considered like that. And I suppose this is already what is done by Soteria to a large extent. Even more, the creation of evaluation standards and benchmarks of this integrated disaster risk management, how with the measurement tools I just mentioned, and of course, starting from the structure of the pillars, in a way of rethinking about mitigation standards. We discussed that with a Californian colleague recently, and it's definitely one of the issues. It's, of course, we are talking about software rather than hardware, but it's software which can bring a lot of savings. And I just try to mention the scale efforts at EU level, because this might be something, another story. But to express the fact that if this can occur, not only in the methodological cooperation, there is again a lot to expect. We have seen it in some previous efforts, despite it did not make progress so far. So that's my contribution. Thank you for your attention. Waiting for your questions.
Thank you so much, Roland. That's a very, very interesting presentation, and the integrated insurance system you have introduced with three major elements, very informative and something very new to me as well. So thank you so much. So now we would like to open the floor to the audience who might have some questions to Roland, or if you would like to know more about some topics that Roland just mentioned, please feel free to raise your hand or type your questions in the chat. I will pass it on to Roland if I see any questions in the chat. Yes, and I think for me, from this presentation, I think we didn't get the opportunity to get into a lot of details about the Californian case example you just mentioned, and also the French scheme. So I'm wondering, are there any kinds of preconditions that is required to implement this kind of integrated system, using your experience from previous case studies with these two different type of how do you call this, like systems or the frameworks, and I'm wondering if you could share a bit more on the, for example, the technical or financial or even policy perspectives. What are the preconditions to be able to implement these kind of systems?
Thank you, Viviane. It's an important element for introducing, and sorry for not having developed these main ideas at the start of my presentations. Indeed, there are, I would say, there are different big categories. There are categories of the history. Sometimes, given the extreme events environment, the history makes a lot. So the event is in many cases the precondition. It's not very satisfactory as a whole, but that's how life goes. And in France, we may have had, in addition to events which were not as catastrophic as today, but significant nevertheless, in the 80s, early 80s. And the experience of previous ones in Paris, a big one in 1910. So this was already very far away in the past. So there was this, and the political momentum. This is the second element. So the combination of so, but I will go ahead because this is very, this would be okay to explain the history of NatCat system, the reasons of appearance. But what I want to say, and I have put my emphasis on the fact that it's not enough, and the additional preconditions were that we maybe I suppose it's more or less the case in many, let's say, developed countries, to have a system of law implementation built of engineers. Let's say it like that. So the fact that the state engineers and in the large municipalities as well were very willing to make something and to take advantage of the situation, the event situation, to make things work better, and to design tools such for land use planning, etc. So the municipality were not in favor, of course. So it's a very, and from the beginning, I would say, not only the fact, but the fact that we can manage somehow an unstable attempt to become, I don't say in the end, but to become more and more stable. And the more stable being get progress done in the land use planning tools, this PPR thing, which were starting from scratch and reaching more and more municipalities covered, and then it's not only covered once, but it has to be implemented, to be implemented, of course, and it was not simple, and to be reconsidered if it appeared that it was not totally adequate. So and so on. Of course, we have the insurance people who were definitely very active at the design of the initial system and its implementation, who are also convinced of which is not an easy thing in general, I think. Therefore, the topic today, insurance people in France were in majority convinced of the better efficiency, economic efficiency, social and economic efficiency, we should say. That's what they said yesterday night. To go through this kind of system where the states, through a reinsurance company, a specific reinsurance company, can provide the insurability conditions at a very specific. So this is, but I mean, the last and but not least, again, element is the fact that we can, as I said, integrate these elements into the system with these. I think we are very far from the end of this part of the story, which is risk-based decision making for the end users. So this has to, and this is probably the area of most public-private partnership besides the financial one, which we mentioned. The financial public-private partnership is, of course, it might be considered by many as the one. But the other part, the less spectacular one, is very important, efficient, now efficient, and it's so the area of this willingness to, and again, this is what we can hear even from insurance, that insurance people, I entered this part of the story, the risk reduction action from the insurance perspective 25 years ago, but I can see now that people are more convinced, and it's not only to be convinced, it's to be active, to allocate resources, to have people active and in contact to the end users to provide these ultimate service necessities of making decision on risk. I should stop. Because, if you have another
Would you like
question.
to just to summarize all these elements you just mentioned with like one sentence, just to highlight the key takeaways for us here?
We can always do keywords, and the one I mentioned are so the circumstantial part, the political part, the insurance business motivation to able to be. So again, I will, but to be to accept something else than the original line of business, and the willingness of the parties, meaning the insurance, the state, and third parties, to provide additional elements for the whole system to work. And this is risk-based decision making. Sorry, it is a little bit more than one sentence, but it's more compact.
Cool. Thank you so much. I see Mia has a question. Hi, Mia. Please feel free to ask your question.
Hi, Roland.
Hi, Mia.
I think that I only want to tell you that, I mean, we have worked together for, I don't know, 15 years or something. And we finally in Norway now have a solution, working on a solution very similar to the French one. So that's it was nice to hear your presentation and say that this is actually starting to spread a little bit outside of France. So we're looking at the Barnier Fund as a fundament, like you told us. So I don't have actually a question, but I think it's the momentum and the things has really changed the last, let's say, 5 years. And thank you for your excellent speech. I just wanted to say hi. Okay.
Thank you, Mia.
Cool. Thank you very much, Mia. Let me check in the chat if there is any question. So I think we do have one question from Richard. Hi, Roland. To my knowledge, the French insurance code system imposed to rebuild the damaged building at identical, isn't it a blocking factor to build back better? Roland, would you like to?
Yes, I say hello to my friend Richard, who addresses again a question he addressed recently in a board meeting of IFPCNT, which is a tricky question. I, I must say, I have in my daily job, I was faced with this type of question, and there are questions in which, let's say, the stakeholders don't. Have difficulties to because it's not a yes or no. It's always depending if it is destroyed or not. So I must say we are not this. We can continue to consult on this, and he may insist through any lobbying way to push this this essential question of reconstruction at the same place. But I think so there is a technical debate. I mentioned the engineers of the state; they have their role to play. If, as you know, Richard, if the head of the state representing the state at the department level, the préfet, we say he may say no, you cannot construct at the place where it happened and where it is now confirmed that so now confirmed by the event that it's not possible. Danger for life is too high. So that's the general rule how it works, and this is easy for the insurers to more easy. It's not an easy situation, but it's more easy to interpret. But so I have spent time already on that, and it would. I am afraid I shall not find the few keywords expected by Vivian in order to give you the simple answer.
Mia, would you like to?
I just want to comment on that because we're working in Norway with a solution where the insurance company, largest insurance company, just entered into a 3 year contract with one of the partners in Soteria to look at every time there's a claim if the insurance company can motivate how to build back better. But although not maybe in the building code, but in the area, so that they're using either nature-based solution or other types of solutions that will help prevent for the next maybe not heavy flooding, but more in a city perspective. So I just wanted to mention that because that's quite new and it's quite innovative. So maybe that's the way to go. That
Thank
the
you.
insurance companies are now much more looking at to combine their information with expertise through software projects. So I don't know if you know about that, Roland. You know,
I'm sorry, I am more and more retiring and I don't want to know too much, which is beside my gardening. So no, I'm very provocative, but I think we should also consider that your point, which is elaborating on the point of the colleague Richard, is definitely important. Solutions are expected. That the topic of this presentation was trying to propose an integrative approach, giving the topics the situation which has been addressed, not those who are not well addressed. As I am not by essence in this mind setting, but definitely it's very important, and I think you just. If we stay to this to one individual subject, whichever it is, we don't talk about the integration, the topic, the topic which is so that's my my.
I can also comment
it's
on
a comment between friends.
yeah, and I can also comment on the chat because there's a Geneviève. I'm not sure how you pronounce
Geneviève
this. Sounds
Beaumont,
very
yes.
French. It's the same thing that I mentioned in Norway is that of course this was very this was one of the last thing I did with Finance Norway, the insurance association, is to gather a group from all the different political system or agencies and national agencies to discuss can we follow up on what they have done in France with the Fond Barnier And of course, like probably mentioned behind this comment from is that it's very unpopular with the insurance company. So you have to have a strong political
Yes, I
decision
agree.
behind it. And I think it's not gone through yet, but I think this is something that we, even in Soteria, can use as an example on this PPP result solution, if you want. So.
We are entering into another debate. Yeah, I think this is what I said. If we start to to debate on the value, good value for the public, etc., of a system, we have obvious demonstrations that it has provided a lot of value. We can then it's another a part of collaborative work to discuss about the respective merits. On the contrary to you, I listened even yesterday. Three top executives of insurance companies from various, I would say, type categories who were only providing very emphatic testimonies about for Barnier, and it's helped to implement the system. So again, then I don't know what is good for. I personally, I'm not very confident about this opinion polling. Voilà. Mais of course, in the end, they vote. We all vote.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and insights. So, Genevieve, since Roland and me are both responded to your comments, would you like to just to respond quickly if you have any other questions or?
I'm the same association as Roland, but I am not involved in the insurance process. I come from nuclear risk, and so but I work during 4 years in the Ministry of Environment when the PAPI was decided by politicals, and so for me, it's also very important that the society, as mayor of the cities, take care of this. And I am, I make different interview of mayor, and this year when they have the meeting of the mayors of the cities in the annual meeting of these mayors, they decide that one of the strong efforts they have to do is about taking care of floods and to have more a strong process in their town to inform public, to make and to explain what they can do to protect themselves. So I am more from the society. I am more interested by the studies around what are the strong point in society than on the insurance. But insurance, of course, is very important. For example, AXA in France give a lot of guide to inform companies to reduce the risk with climate change. And for me, this approach is very interesting. But what they say is that people have to work together, and that is the more difficult things, because people want to stay with their own partner, and it's difficult, for example, to have discussion between the town and the company in the same town, and so. But I am also interested. But what the different company of insurance give for tools to reduce flood damage.
Is this the question to Roland, or it's a general question to the
It
other?
was a general comment.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing.
Please, Geneviève, I want to elaborate because I may again to take time, but just 2 points. You were were interrogative about the fact that the municipalities or the local authorities in general can interact with their citizens or vice versa. I have participated, not only witnessed it, participated to participative governance fora, not only at national level, but also very close level, at the level of flooding plan, to say it in PAPI, let's say. So, I mean, the opportunities are there. If the people do not want, the issue is if indeed to create active people, to develop the willingness of young and less young people to commit themselves in the rights. I don't say this. I say it exists. This exists. It may disappear because of many reasons, but it's a duty to help them to restart the process. New other ones, but this is a main duty for the public sector to create democratic initiative, which is supported by frames like these institutions, which are there for. And the Scandinavians, we know, maybe in America, there is probably more traditional involvement to that extent. And the other issue I raised at the end on the flooding prevention of insurance companies, it's a continuous story, but go to the website of MRN, Mission Risque Naturel, and so on. So you may always think, but it's not exactly what I forecasted on my menu, but this is the way society goes. Some make their some choices. Perhaps these choices are driven by because they don't want to go into other ones. Although one of they didn't want at all to go in is the subsidence. In French, said stress géotechnique. They now are very much committed with specific tools, etc. So yes, ask them to present this at IFPCN, for instance. It would be and to this kind of webinar. Definitely, there are lots of, and in this way, it might be a conclusion. You have raised the fact that there are many more good, interesting, positive developments at the edge or not at the contact between public and private players. And for instance, the insurance are. I can witness because I spent 25 years on this. I can witness that they are more willing than ever, and because of the reasons we mentioned, because the same reasons of the when it started 40 years ago for the system, 25 years ago for the Association on Risk Prevention in the Insurance Association of France. So I mean, this is going on, and it's speeding up, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Roland, for your final remarks. So we got two more comments in the chat. I think for our participants today, please feel free to share your comments as well in the chat. So or ask more questions in the chat. And if we have more time at the end of this webinar, we will try to address them. So thank you so much, Roland, and thank you so much for the very interactive participation in this first part of our webinar today. So next, I would like to invite Alexander to share the presentation that he has prepared for our webinar today. He would highlight the Bavarian case study from his previous work experience and also dive into the integrated system on risk management. Thank you so much, Alexander. Floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Vivian. Thank you, colleagues. Yeah, actually, the colleagues in Bavaria, they're dealing with the concrete case. We are just working together on improving the things that are already there, and then providing more, let's say, efficient and more, let's say, strong solution, more sustainable solution, so to speak. But in fact, I will be also comparing this case with another case in Lower Saxony, which means I'm going to do this horizontal comparison, while Holland was doing the vertical one between the system in France and also in California. But the logic, we decided to keep the same logic to analyze three key elements. And if those three key elements are in place, so the system is working efficiently. So this will be like the main leitmotif again behind the narrative. So maybe just to give you maybe a couple of let's say inputs before we'll dive into these cases. You know about this recent report, let's say the final report of the climate resilience dialogue. So where different factors or challenges have been separated onto let's say onto sides, supply and demand side, and actually one of this let's say challenges is also related to reliance on the government support. But we will deal with this maybe in slightly different mode. We have our cases in Soteria project. We have in different countries. But the main idea behind understanding the situation was exactly to run this exercise and understand what other challenges are there, and why this penetration rate is not so high in some cases and extremely high in other cases. So for us, it was important to understand, for example, the case study of Bavaria. What's the key challenge for them, and what we have to do to what we could do and support to overcome this this particular challenge. We elaborated within our team, let's say, types of innovations, and we also try to find a space for this particular PPP approach, and we saw that exactly what Alan was talking about, and other colleagues by asking and posing the questions, is that in some cases we're missing some enabling conditions, and to make this let's say product or this solution working. And PPP is one of them because it's not always about the business models. It's not always about the product, which could be already in place. It's not always about technology, but it's about this enabling conditions and dealing with this in terms of improving resilience jointly is maybe the best way forward. Because if somebody is missing in this equation, this could result in lower efficiency of the solution, or in some cases the solution could not be implemented. We also try to understand what kind of features should be in place if we're talking about concrete solutions. And actually, affordability is one of them. Resilience, this is what exactly Roland was talking about, and transparency, which is again more related to upcoming obligations for insurance market and insurance market participants, but not on the national level, but slightly higher elevated level. What we also identified is exactly in case of Bavaria, we're talking about this PPP approach, which should be in place, shared resilience products and business models. So this all is desirable, and what should be implemented in order to improve or reduce, so to speak, this insurance penetration rate. So again, we decided to let's say build up or to go with the case studies or with our examples by using the same approach. So again, these three elements already presented by Roland. And actually, we have Bavarian case as the first case introduced on the level of the German federal states, but the next one entered into force a bit later, but it was already a bit advanced because Bavarian case just I'm like jumping ahead forward. Bavarian case has had no mentioning about this. Let's say. Motivation to implement thus risk reduction measures like different practices for agriculture. But another one was already had this element embedded. So for the Bavarian case, the most important was to make sure that this will be covering as much farmers as possible. So it's a mandatory approach, but with some limitations, as you see, let's say the farmers with let's say with lower than 0.3 hectares, they are excluded from this scheme. I mean, the reason is obvious because the transaction costs could be higher than the benefit that could be achieved as at the end. And the subsidy again was limited to 50% of the subsidy that could be let's say received of the insurance premium, but not higher than 25,000 per one enterprise. It's a multi-peril again, and initially, as I told this before, there was no mentioning about some, let's say, motivation to do this resilience improvements activities, but recent amendments they introduced this element also to the Bavarian case as well. So what was also important to understand is like again now this scheme has already some elements of this motivation, and financial incentives should also again support this proactive risk management approach, which is again coming back to the previous discussion. It's important to build forward better, not even back better, but even forward better, because this is the difference between these approaches. Like we're not we want to improve our ability to do, let's say, to act proactively. And this is exactly about this new concept actually introduced by UNDP, but it's not so popular. But again, it's only about let's say the way of thinking and the main goal which should be achieved at the end. And in this particular insurance schemes, they are actually more building forward better oriented, because they are providing this or they are let's say supporting this movement to be more resilient and more let's say prepared to what is going to happen. Again, the third element within the Bavarian case is also there, because you let's say you can have this different support from let's say to be more let's say to get more knowledge, to get more information about what could be implemented, and which is even more important, this portal through which these applications are being submitted, because it's again an element of discussion which we decided to not to touch upon. But this is again a breach. This was a breach for the federal ministry in Bavaria to get funds from the level above, and to let's say fit in the system with the subsidies, especially for the specific sector. Again, another case is in Lower Saxony, but again the same area, the same idea, and even if you see the time frame, you can guess that the source of funding is the same for both cases. But what was the key, let's say, key element of improvement, or let's say advantage of this scheme, was that application for the subsidy was already from the very beginning tied to specific practices, which could again improve resilience of the farmers and reduce the risk potentially for them, or the damage, potential damage. Let's say the very similar components within this system, they are connected to or related to this provision of the subsidy, which also could be covered by 50%, and the maximum amount is also let's say limited by 25,000. Again, the idea is to cover as much participants as possible, which is again coming back to the approach introduced by Roland. Is the first and key element. We have to provide protection for all. Let's say not 100%. I mean, obviously, it's very hard task, but at least we have to cover as much. Let's say participants as possible. And also the impact is again the idea is to reduce the risk, and also to improve resilience in this specific and particular um, particular case. Again, as I told this before, there is already a predefined list as a ticking boxes, and if you are fitting into this ticking box, your enterprise, or you as participant of the system, you could apply for the subsidy. You could receive it. Again, the outcome is obvious, or the expected outcome, because the system is still at the very beginning. But the expected outcome is that the farmers, or the system of covering against the specific risks for pre-selected industry, the situation will be improved, and the resilience will be much higher as a result. And decision making tool, again, the farmers, they can decide, and they can see what's the range of this potential activities which could be implemented, and again how they could react to what they're doing. Maybe a slight spoiler. Let's say our partners in Bavaria, who are let's say directly involved in this exercise, in this scheme, they're moving also forward with particular solution, and they're also trying to understand what kind of let's say measures or activities could be implemented to, let's say, to achieve this better resilience. But it looks like there is no one silver bullet, and the solutions could vary across different, let's say, sport areas. And at the end, it looks like it should be a very tailored solution in terms of having this physical parameter, for example, to which the solution or the payment could be attached. Because in both cases, we're talking about the parametric insurance solution. Again, if we are comparing those two schemes, both of them are multi-peril. They have the subsidy element, which is again the key idea is to let's say cover as much farmers as possible. Some digital solutions are there to make this system functional, which is again coming back to the my previous let's say message. This is the breach or prerequisite to get this funding and to fill in the system with the subsidies. But as a result, again, and the key element which is also there is this risk management option. In one case, as I told this before, in case of Lower Saxony, this was already incorporated from the very beginning. But in case of Bavaria, it's only now. I think this is the second year when the system is in place. This element is starting to be introduced or incorporated into the scheme. Again, the program for Lower Saxony was from the very beginning envisaged for a predefined long-term period, and in Bavaria the decision was made like only, let's say, after the first year of being in place. But again, they're moving almost in the same directions as a result, and just summing up and moving to the let's say to the one red line that we decided with the Holland to have for our two presentations. In all these cases, we have an element which allows to cover as much farmers or clients as possible. For the insurance companies, we have also an element of the risk management, and we have a concrete idea of improving decision making process on the level of concrete clients, and forcing them, or let's say giving them an instrument to understand how they can move in terms of improving their resilience. Again, this is just let's say a summary of those three elements. Again, they're all there in those two cases, which is again a good sign of having an efficient system in place, which could at the end contribute to, let's say, to higher rate of penetration. So I think that's all from my side. I was not intending to let's say take so much time, maybe to leave more space for discussion, because I think as I told this before, we try to with Holland to keep one line of discussion, not to jump to let's say very sensitive issues like let's say let's call them like boxes of Pandora, but maybe stay more concentrated on solutions itself and the schemes which are already in place, and to try to understand why they are functioning, and what are the key elements of success in all these cases. So thank you so much. Yeah, Vivian, over to you.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. Very interesting. From your presentation, I think we get a better understanding, like in practice, how this system could work, and also especially you mentioned about the multi-peril insurance pilots in Saxony. So I think we received two questions in the chat. The first question is, can you please talk a bit more about education for farmers, so the capacity building for farmers, how it was done in the case studies that you mentioned?
So actually, it's more about like what we know, like from this exercise. It's like at this stage, let's say the insurance brokers and the insurance companies, they're talking to the farmers. They are explaining. Let's say it's a reciprocal let's say process, because insurance companies and the brokers, they are collecting information from the farmers regarding their best practices, because this is important for the insurance companies to understand what kind of physical parameter should be incorporated into the solution, because at the end we're talking about let's say an activity sustainable activity which could contribute to more resilience. And now currently, let's say they are exchanging between each other this information, let's say to better forecast, better do these calculations, and to better understand how to incorporate for the farmers, for instance, how to incorporate this sustainable activities into their practice and to be more resilient, and at the same time make sure that these physical parameters, they're also acceptable for insurance companies, and they're talking the same language. Because again, uh, this is very important for both of them to communicate. I think this is the same problem for similar approaches when there is a need of exchanging information between two, let's say, two different worlds, so to speak, because they need to come at some point of time together, and only if they do understand that they have the same task, and they have to exchange this information to have this common solution. So that's why they're exchanging this information. They are sharing information about what they implement. For example, the farmers, they share information what they're implementing and what the results they're achieving. They have these surveys. They collecting this information, but at the end, it's again about this awareness raising and educational component, because now they let's say both sides, they do understand what's happening, and what kind of physical parameters should be incorporated into the solution to be acceptable by insurance companies, and also contribute to real improvements of resilience on the side of the farmers. I hope I answered the question, but more details are available at our colleagues, let's say, working physically on the ground. But this is what I get from let's say, the joint communication with them.
Yeah, sounds very interesting. It sounds like a climate resilience dialogues within the farmer community or the farmer associations. Yeah. And we have another question. What kind of information are given to farmers by data-driven strategies?
This is a very, I think, important question. One thing is that this portal, yeah, this portal is again a system where this information has been collected about, like, location of the of the client, and I think this is important to, let's say, to start generating this information for better understanding, like calibrate this system, and try to understand what's the best design, and how maybe to improve existing, let's say, composition, and maybe to introduce more add-ons. And this is exactly what is happening, because the let's say the federal ministry is adding more and more elements to the system based on what they saw, and based on collected data, and based on what was experienced, let's say, at least based on the first year when the system was in place. Because for sure you need to have, let's say, a quite long range of the data to have a clear understanding of the best composition. But at least this information is being collected, and this is, again, this IT platform is the key element which allowed to have the system in place. And this is again about collecting this information about the locations and JS connected, and then after, let's say, a couple of years at least, you can see the real picture.
I see. So the platform is the key. So thank you very much, Genevieve, for your questions. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Yeah, thank you.
It's okay. All is okay. Fine.
Yeah, great. So then we come to Federica's question. So Frederic asked the question, what are the main aspects you see the agreement between insurers and Bavarian ministry if this is partially public, or if this information is public or not?
I think we should ask the insurers, let's say the insurance company, because up to 9 insurance companies, they have to sign an agreement with the federal ministry, before, let's say, before their clients could apply for the subsidy. So it's like a process which is predefined, and there is like a document that should be an agreement that should be achieved if the insurance companies they are ready to play the same game or use the same rules, so then the system is working. So I have unfortunately it's better to ask. I'm not like 100% sure about the content of this agreement, but it's again it's better to ask the companies involved what's the key element.
I guess different insurers also have their own preferences or their own specific
That's
focuses. So
that's the thing, because you have to have the common understanding and the common solution. Like all these elements should fit together, and I think this agreement is exactly how they can be sure that everything is running according to the same rules.
yeah, very interesting. Thank you very much, Frederick, for your question. Then we come to Mia's question. What are the driving forces on the side of insurance companies?
They're making their products affordable. So they at the end, the clients could just physically, especially small and medium farmers. So for them, it's I think one of the critical questions here.
I see. So, Mia, if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to ask here. Yeah.
No, I was just wondering also, Alexander, if the EU taxonomy or there are other European legally driven parts of this.
Yeah, I think this is what we discussed with Roland. This is our Pandora box, and we decided not to touch this issue. But maybe just briefly respond to this. The insurers they are aware of this requirement. That's why they are looking even for separate solutions where this element will be incorporated. But the key challenge is, again, insurance companies, they do understand, they have a very clear understanding that what they're doing in this particular case should contribute to more resilience, and this is maybe the key challenge here. The question whether those activities they are contributing to more resilience or not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mia, for your question. Cool. I don't see more questions in the chat, so if any participants still have some questions, please feel free to raise your hands or type it in the chat. So I will read it out for the speakers. And Roland, maybe come to you. So since we just discussed the multiple topics, especially like from the practical side, according to the Bavarian case study, do you have any comments on the topics we just discussed, or do you have more to share? Oh, I think you are muted, Roland. Sorry.
Sorry. Now it's working. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Very glad that we had this opportunity to do the job in close preparation and with Alexander. And I think it worked as much as possible. We see that we try to address the core issues of this PPP leveraged by the insurance side, more or less, or where the insurance is expected. There's the vice versa and I think there is now it seems to be what seemed to be very close, not possible. It becomes possible to have lots of PPP development around the core scheme. Core scheme is, of course, something very important, but it's not enough. That's what I try to express, and I think that's also what Alexander expressed, that the parametric insurance schemes need a lot more, and And I think, yes, the question of Geneviève was very wise to question about the education of people. I think the education, the users, it's not only a technical, it's of course a technical education, but with some more elements in it. And that's what I also try to emphasize in the third pillar of risk-based decision making. It's the fact that we are in a civilization where there is more intelligence in each device and service, and people are expected to be able to make the most of it, and that's still an open, very large, so a very large topic, and for companies, for research, and so it's. But I think it's even more efficient if the very different, possibly very different players are not too. There is a huge specialty required in probably the new tools, but the new tools will be efficient if they are integrated in they can work, if there is work with the rest of the system, and that's the issue. We have probably more concrete illustrations for what Alexander has described to that.
Great. Thank you so much, Roland, and thank you so much for this remark. Yeah. And Alexander, would you like to add something more or share some further thoughts from the discussion just now or today?
Yeah, I just maybe wanted to add that the PPP and these three elements, they are moving behind, obviously behind this parametric insurance, because we are thinking about the same approach in other cases in Soteria, especially after having these events in Valencia. So we were thinking about exactly to, let's say, to have this PPP solution, but not on parametric base. But now I think it's obvious that it's important to cover as much participants as possible in specific area, because if somebody is excluded, then it doesn't work. So it should be something which could provide this, again, risk management, cover as much let's say participants as possible, and also improve the decision making process, let's say within the specific areas, as an example, because this was, I think, our main our common understanding of what we could contribute with our inputs with Roland, is that explain not a particular case or solution, but explain maybe the key approach towards how it could be or should be designed in order to make it happen, and make it let's say functionable, and make it efficient as a result. And again, I hope we manage to avoid all this very, let's say, crispy or let's say uncomfortable issues related to our let's say especially to my cases that I presented. But I hope it worked out to convince, maybe to provide more evidence that these three elements are important to think about before starting to design something.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this. I think we just got another new question in the chat. So it's about AXA, the insurance company, develops 3 climate school for their people, I guess their employees or like their clients. I'm not sure which one. So is this a common practice in insurance companies, according to your knowledge or experience?
Alexander, if you allow me to answer, not because AXA is French, it's no more a French company, it's a world company, like several others in Europe. So this the comment I just made is expressing the fact that Europe is country, a region of development of insurance business with world leaders, several world leaders located in several EU countries. But to answer the question, yes, I mean this is it is not I did not. Present developed because I have limited information of all the new elements, such as the one, so the services, teaching services for the customers by insurance companies is becoming perhaps not yet common, but it's perhaps still a kind of gadget. But I would not say AXA has done a lot like that since many years. I mean, tutorials, whatever, so tools in any kind. So we are in this line. So, and it's indeed very, very positive to see that we get more than the tutorial things because these are more or less easy tool to develop and perhaps less easy to disseminate and get used. But for sure, if it's now a service offered for people to attend, but definitely. You have mutuals in France, Maïf, the mutuals of the teachers, who makes such classes to their customers since many years on many topics, and of course on this one as well. So just to say that it's not, it will not anymore be a competitive advantage, despite the case mentioned is a world leader company, and we are very proud that, as I said, that there are such leaders in Europe, and we can see that whichever the size of the company, this becomes a common practice as indicated. So yes, the answer is yes, but still work in progress, of course, because it's a work which is very, very, it's consuming resources inside the company to provide this service, or they can subcontract, of course, every possibility. This is the trend I mentioned. Thank you, Geneviève, to illustrate my last conclusion was about this kind of service area, which is the third pillar according to my vision of the world. But I think we share it with Alexander. The mic.
Yes, thank you. Forgot to unmute myself. So thank you so much for our two great speakers and your interesting presentations for today.